Wisconsin Conservation Congress. I believe this is my third year. I am the president of the Great Lakes Sports Fishermen. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or Mequon, Wisconsin, but Milwaukee area. I've lived here pretty much most of my entire adult life, and I've been pretty active in a lot of aspects of the community. Some of the things that I really like about what I do at the Great Lakes Sports Fishermen is a lot of the salmon fishery restoration work that we're a part of. So we do a lot of fish stocking for the salmon and trout that are put back into Lake Michigan. We do a lot of water cleanup activities around the local areas and advocate for the fishermen. In addition, we run all the kids fishing clinics. Not all of them. We run kids fishing clinics in the area. Several times a year, we do ice fishing clinics. Usually in Tosa, and then we also have done spring clinics for Boy Scouts or at Boone Conservation Center, etc. I have been the chair ever since I've been on the Milwaukee County delegation. I'm also working with the youth conservation mentors, and we have one of them here today. Colby's here as one of our YCC members. And the YCC is a really great organization. I wanted to talk a little bit about that because that's something I'm pretty passionate about. And especially in Milwaukee County, where kids don't often have an opportunity to get to the outdoors and learn, learn conservation or hunting or fishing. Just isn't a lot of opportunity to do that kind of activity in Milwaukee. But the Youth Conservation Congress is a way for us to partner with somebody in the WCC, one of the delegates, introduce them to the local fisheries biologists, introduce them to the wardens. Last year, I was able to take one of the mentors to release pheasants up in Jackson Park. Laura, you'll hear from her, has graciously offered to, let some of the YCC kids come out and help with some of the salmon and steelhead collection. So there's a lot of opportunities to learn about the outdoors, and also just to introduce yourself to to this process when you're still in high school. So if anybody has any kids that they'd like to have a mentor assigned to them, feel free to reach out to me, or I've got some information out the front desk that you can grab. We'd love to have some more kids in the program. I believe last year we had something around 80 kids in statewide, and it's just a fantastic opportunity. There's activities, throughout the year. We went up, did an ice fishing trip in Shawano. During the convention, the Youth Conservation Congress is invited, and they have 2 days of special events where they go to some of the wildlife centers, do bird banding. They've been out to the elk herd and done some cowering work. Strongly encourage you to do that. I think that's it for me. Mariah?
Hi,
Right.
I'm Mariah Robinson, and I belong to the Strategic Planning Committee. The last few years we've met online, but our primary goal is just to keep the Conservation Congress relevant, definitely keep it within its boundaries that were established with our mission and in our work with the DNR. I think a lot of important things came out about Milwaukee County's role within this community, or within the Congress, and some of the misconceptions that were around our voting rights and such. So it was appreciated to get that done. I did not run again, but I would like to say thank you. It was a great opportunity to see how a citizen advisory board could work with the government, and our participation in teasing out, I'm sure Kristen, who ran as an attorney, understands the importance of some of these words and the unintended consequences that we may allow to pass through, but just someone to patiently comb through that and help citizens express their concerns, as well as bring them to the table in a manner that's acceptable for our role. So that's been my role these last, well, it's 5 years. It was a 3-year run for 5 years. So that's all I have.
Hello, my name is Jerome Donhall. I was appointed to the Congress this last year to fill an open spot of a vacancy due to the participant in a spot for COVID and job changes. I grew up here in Milwaukee. I'm a 53-year transplant from West Virginia. I worked at Medical College, Wisconsin, Lab Animal Sciences for 32 years, been retired 15 years, following agriculture and bridging agriculture into wildlife, water, and everything else for what the wildlife needs as far as making sure everything's a wholesome opportunity. I also represent here in Milwaukee County the Inner City Sportsman's Club, which is a group of inner city kids that I, like others had said before, want to give back to the community and how to bring more kids into the outdoor life, whether it's trying to plant a tree, raise bait fish, archery, gun safety, all that type of stuff that relates to the outdoors and the ecology of a healthy environment. With that, I look to hopefully put things together that might have not been there before, using what I do, and eventually integrating my son and grandkids into the same outdoor opportunities as well. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Barbara Dahlgren. You may have remembered me as Barbara Maniotis when I ran the first time in 2016, and you reelected me in 2018. It's been a lot of things in my life that have happened since I got to meet you all for the first time. And then we've been on like a 3-year hiatus. So what they've done is they've extended our term each year that we haven't had an election. So I was on a 2-year term and a 3-year term, and then my term got extended for 3 years. And in that time, I've gotten married, I've become a mother, and I've gotten a master's degree. So it's been an interesting time in my personal life, but if you weren't there with me back from the beginning, I became a Conservation Congress delegate right after Milwaukee County lost its status as its own district. Now we are run with a district leadership council. There are 11 districts. There used to be 12, and Milwaukee had its own district. So at this moment, and pretty much the way that it's structured with the district leadership council, that council has a lot of the power of the Conservation Congress. And who's ever on it, from 2 people from each of the 11 districts, has a lot of power over all of the questions that you all might be working on next week. Those hearing questions are still online for us, that they get to pass through or they fail. They have a lot of pull over what happens with how we represent ourselves to the public and everything else. So we used to have 2 delegates from Milwaukee that were on the district leadership council, and that was taken away. And we've worked here to try and get those seats back. That has not happened over the last 6 years or so. The district leadership council has shot down every idea to get our representation back. And it's really been my belief that to make a body like this more democratic, that we ought to have representatives like we do in government, that it's not only by land ownership like we used to do in the 1850s before the regular populace could vote, but that everybody was represented by population. We don't have by population in the Conservation Congress. So that's something I'm interested in. I'm always interested in hearing citizen input and getting more people to write questions and consider these advisory questions that are so important to us, so that we actually get a conversation going about the most important issues around the state. And I'd like to see more of those questions get to be statewide, so that the entire state can actually look at what is going on in our communities. So that's really been the heart and soul of why I've continued to stay here and work with you all. And I've been very happy to serve here, and glad that you have elected me and much your faith in me for this long at least. So I currently live in West Dallas. I used to live in Milwaukee when I was elected originally. And I work with a lot of conservation groups around the area. I work with the Get the Lead Out to help us not have lead in our water, and many other issues like that. I'm very interested in food sovereignty. Milwaukee County has a huge problem with people not being able to find enough food for themselves. And also, we have a beautiful amount of land here. And so to connect, people getting their hands into the dirt again and getting the food for ourselves from our own area is something that I'm very passionate about here. And I'll pretty much end with that unless people have any questions for me. I'm always looking for whoever might be interested in getting involved in the Congress and getting involved in these issues, because I think the more people who have something to say and actually put a foot forward to work on these issues, the better chance that we have on making a more democratic society and a more sustainable society. So thank you all for coming tonight, and I look forward to serving another year.
I should have mentioned this before, so just one housekeeping item. So with the new delegates, Jason and Pete, I just want to let you know that after we're done with this panel discussion, what we're going to do is we're all going to meet as county delegates and discuss some business. So please stick around to the end of the meeting. So next we'll hear from Laura Schmidt.
You guys aren't gonna take questions first?
I was told that we're not really doing questions, Q&A, but we will stick around afterwards if
Okay.
people have questions for us, so.
Perfect. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura Schmidt. I'm a fisheries biologist with the Wisconsin DNR, and I work out of Milwaukee. I'm one of 2 fisheries biologists who are stationed in Milwaukee, and my primary role is to work in Lake Michigan, but I also do work with, inland Milwaukee County, specifically the urban fishing program. So I have a couple of statewide updates that I wanted to talk about, and then a few local ones too. So some of you, of course, might be familiar with the statewide walleye management plan that went through a whole series of meetings throughout 2020 and 2021. A lot of those, unfortunately, were on Zoom because of the circumstances, but the update to the statewide walleye management plan is complete and final, and the DNR's walleye team met in Eau Claire in early February to move into the implementation phase of this new plan. We've already made progress by setting up a Gov delivery list to stay in touch with stakeholders to provide updates, and we've generated a list of walleye fishing guides that we can consult with. We're currently in the process of setting up a workshop to discuss walleye restoration strategies with key partners, and plan on conducting a regulation toolbox review. We're also completing a stocking evaluation for the Wisconsin Walleye Initiative. In 2021-2, fisheries staff completed their first 2 rounds of making population estimates in lakes that have been part of the Wisconsin Walleye Initiative, and data collection efforts will be continuing over the next several years. So just keep an eye on that. There's a lot more coming with walleye. We'll be examining how much contribution the fall fingerling walleye have to adult populations, and looking at identifying adult populations that were created from stocking. So lots upcoming with walleye. We thank everybody who had input into that walleye management plan stakeholder feedback. There was a lot of comments, which was awesome. So more to come on that. In similar vein with panfish, some of you might be familiar with the experimental panfish regulations that have been in place since 2016. A lot of those, or most of them, have a sunset date of 2016. So just a really quick background is that the current 10-year experiment was driven by 2 situations that we observed regularly that we didn't have good tools to manage. One was size over harvest, where growth potential existed, but intense size-dependent harvest prevented survival to quality sizes. And then we had the opposite situation from, of course, stunting, where panfish are overly abundant and have slow growth rates. So the panfish experiment over the last seven-ish years is testing what we can do to better manage those 2 common situations. We've evaluated some of these responses, and there's going to be a lot more coming. If you have more questions about that, feel free to ask me afterwards. I'll be around, but that's a quick update there. And a couple more local things that I wanted to talk about too. One, some of you might be familiar with our urban fishing program where we have designated urban fishing ponds all throughout the state where we stock catchable size rainbow trout in, targeted towards especially urban areas, especially Milwaukee County, to provide fishing opportunities for youth and really anybody who just wants to fish from shore. The stocking of those ponds started today and will continue throughout next week. So I thought that would be something important to mention since I know a lot of people are interested in it. And a couple of just quick Great Lakes related things that I wanted to talk about. So some of you might be familiar with our Salmonid stocking plan for Lake Michigan and the stakeholder meetings that we've had over the last year or so, soliciting feedback on our next 3-year plan for salmon and trout stocking in the Lake Michigan. We're continuing to work through the stakeholder engagement process now. We're gonna have one additional public meeting this summer addressing our stocking plans for 2024 to 2026. So we're still soliciting feedback from any members of the public who are interested in that. If you missed some of the previous meetings and are interested in watching recordings or viewing supplemental materials that we provided, if you go to the DNR website and just search Lake Michigan salmon stocking, the first link that shows up will be a web page where there's links to all of the pre-recordings and email links for where you can provide your feedback. Similar to that, we have now formed a lake trout commercial harvest stakeholder group that's providing input for consideration as we develop recommendations on pursuing a statement of scope for commercial harvest of lake trout on Lake Michigan. This is consisting of a series of 4 monthly meetings, which actually kicked off in February. So we had one in February and one in March. Our next one is set for April 18th. All 4 of these meetings are open to the public, and the intent is to provide information on the current status of lake trout in Lake Michigan and gather feedback from stakeholders. And similar to the salmon stocking, if you're interested in viewing previous meetings that you missed, recordings are all on the DNR website. If you just search for Lake Michigan lake trout, it'll come right up. And other than that, I think that's all I had. What, Angela?
All right, so my name's Angela Vicchio. Thank you for having me here tonight. This is the first time I've attended one of these. I am the superintendent for our Milwaukee State Parks Work Unit, so I oversee Havenwood State Forest, Hank Aaron State Trail, and Lakeshore State Park. I'll be around afterwards in case anybody has any questions, but similar to Laura, I want to provide some area updates as well as some planned ones by the department statewide. So we have quite the busy summer planned at our properties within the work unit. We will be bringing MOHE to Milwaukee for the first time ever. For those unfamiliar, MOHE stands for Midwest Outdoor Heritage Education Expo. It is an event historically only offered at Poinet Game Farm up at McKenzie Center. And for the first time ever, we'll be hosting it at Havenwoods. We will have about 1,000 4th to 7th grade students on property, learning about archery, air guns, fishing, trapping, dog trialing, huge variety. We have a SCAT identification station. So a large variety of different outdoor skills. We are at something about 35 different activity stations for that day. And that's coming up in May. If you know any 4th to 7th grade schools in the area that may be interested, feel free to touch base with me afterwards and I can get you the information on how those schools can register. We do still have some space available for attendees. We'll also be conducting the first program series for DNR Fish, Wildlife, and Parks careers geared towards high school students this summer that are aged 16 to 18. Once a week for 6 weeks, we will have students going on field trips throughout the area, learning about the different careers that are offered within Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and culminating with a Green Jobs Fair at the end of it that will be open to public attendance as well. We're also hosting a 24-hour BioBlitz with Milwaukee Public Museum at Havenwoods. So we have a huge year of firsts. We had our first candlelight hike there ever in January of this year. Made a lot of updates to the property, so if you haven't been there in a while, please stop by. We have an amazing history wall in the lobby now that we didn't used to have that outlines the entire incredible transformation of the property. At Lakeshore, it's gearing up to be a busy summer as always with special events. USA Triathlon is coming back for the 3rd year in a row. Their marina is finishing up the first phase of a redecking project, so we are completing that.
Can you define Lakeshore?
Yeah, so Lakeshore State Park is over by Summerfest grounds and Discovery World. It used to be Harbor Island, for those of you who, like me, used to go fish there when it was half the size it is now and felt like you were trespassing on Summerfest property. Still feels like that a little bit, but does have multiple ways to access the property now and has a lot more prairies instead of thistle and Queen Anne's lace and weeds. So that property is our second smallest in the state park system at 22 acres, but does have over 400,000 visitors per year and one of the highest uses for special event permits. They have a 20 slip boat marina that's available to rent for up to 4 days at a time, very popular during the ethnic festivals at the Summerfest grounds. And their fishing pier is finally going to be getting re-anchored, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, weather depending. It has been closed for over a year, but we have a date and a backup date set to get it put back in place correctly and reopening it. Hank Aaron State Trail will be undergoing a re-signing project, so those unfamiliar with Hank Aaron, that goes from Lake Michigan, connecting at the south end of Lakeshore State Park and goes out to the Waukesha County line. It runs through the middle of the state fairgrounds that we're at right now. And they are also, I just finished up the updated map and brochures, so that is going through approvals. We'll get that printed later this year. And we recently opened up a 72nd Street connection on the south side of the trail, which was much needed. We have a large stretch that only has north side trail connections. So as always, busy season is coming up, filled with a lot of revegetation projects, improvement projects, public programs. We're glad to have you join us to learn more about the properties at our events or get your hands dirty helping us put prairie plants and trees in the ground. If you're interested in any volunteering or programs that are coming up, feel free to contact me. Then the statewide ones, which I apologize, I'll probably look down at the sheet a lot more. The Parks and Recreation Management Bureau is responsible for conducting all property management activities related to public use and access on department lands, including work on the wildlife areas, fisheries areas, natural areas, forests, and Wisconsin State Park System properties. These activities include the maintenance and development of public use facilities, such as parking lots, boat access sites, fishing piers, trails, and related recreational activities, roads, shelters, posting of boundary signs, installation of signage, and even maintaining fence crossings for anglers. The Bureau of Parks and Recreation Management operations are almost 100% funded through user fees, such as admission stickers, trail passes, and camping fees. This is not the case for most DNR programs or most state park systems across the country. These user fees are all deposited into what's called the Parks account. The governor's budget includes several provisions to address a maintenance backlog of facilities like parks, trails, buildings, bridges, roads, and other public facilities. These provisions will help to improve customer experiences and safety on state lands. Deferring this maintenance would lead to more costly repair and replacement projects in the long term. The Parks account is in good shape to fund the proposals in the governor's budget. In addition to starting to address the maintenance backlog, other funding initiatives include new facilities, replacement of equipment like mowers, tractors, and UTVs, increased utility costs, and technology upgrades. The Parks program has experienced hiring difficulties and high vacancy rates of seasonal LTE positions statewide. To address this challenge, the governor's budget includes increased funding to raise the hourly wage of seasonal positions. If unable to fill seasonal LTE positions, the program will have to scale back service at recreational properties at a time when the demand for outdoor recreation is high. We have enjoyed very greatly the variety of visitors and the increase in visitors we've had to our state parks program. We had a huge explosion during COVID. And a lot of new types of users, people coming to Parks Properties for the first time and really returning and having a huge appreciation for what we have here in Milwaukee. Thank you for all of your attention. It has been a pleasure being here today. And again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about our properties, and hope to see you at them soon.
Could you just give the date for the expo, the outdoor heritage?
Yep, so Mohi is gonna be on May 10th. We do have pre-registration required, and again, if you are interested, I'm happy to link up with you and get you the sign-up information.
Hello, I am Conservation Warden Eric Anderson. I'm one of the wardens for Milwaukee County. Also in the room, we have Warden Yang, who is one of the Milwaukee wardens, and we have our regional lieutenant, Nick Miofsky. If you guys have any questions after we're done, you can feel free to come up to us, talk to you about whatever you'd like to. We have a few the statewide updates. We'll go through those first and talk about a few local issues. One of the negative ones is kind of inflation and an employment landscape continue to pose challenges. We are working with our agency budget partners to address rising costs that have not yet translated to corresponding funding increases, as well as significant pay disparities among both in-state and adjacent state competitors. We continually appreciate the advocacy from our customers related to increased staffing and funding resources, and look forward to this biennium's enacted budget. From the R3 standpoint, the division embarked on 2 new ventures in 2022 designed to get novice adult hunters into the field. Wanna Go Hunting web series, intended for people that are interested in giving hunting a try, but have yet to take the first steps. Through a series of 5 webinars, we covered information on how to get started hunting, hunting opportunities, places to hunt, places to target practice, and how to find a hunting partner. The webinar is available for viewing on the DNR YouTube channel and Learn to Hunt webpage. New Learn to Butcher Deer workshops, I believe we had one at Havenwood State Forest, 2 at Havenwood State Forest. Havenwoods is just the place to be. DNR staff and partners provided 4 one-day workshops focused on teaching hunters how to butcher and process their deer. The workshops were very popular, and based on the high level of interest, we intend to continue providing these workshops into the future. The division is also working to release a new program for 2023, Hunt Safe Welcome Centers, a program designed to utilize and promote safe hunting and learn to hunt activities throughout the state. If anybody went to the sports show, they had a lot of that Hunt Safe Welcome Center material there, and that'll also be showing up at a lot of different events. So something cool to be on the lookout for. The division is working with the Bureau of Parks and Recreation to plan and finalize work on the state parks and recreational properties for this summer. The division continues to ensure we are providing quality customer service to all of our public, whether they are utilizing our resources consumptively or enjoying the beauty of our state parks. Our investigative bureau continues to focus on large-scale environmental pollution cases. They are receiving several large-scale monetary and cleanup case adjudications. The citizens of this great state continue to drink clean water and breathe clean air, largely due to the efforts of this bureau to hold those accountable for intentionally polluting. The division continues to maintain low vacancy rates. The current cadre of recruits in the academy/field training will enter their stations throughout this year. The full recruitment and training timeline is about 20 months from posting to stationing. Kickoff for this year's hiring is projected for April. We are currently projecting potentially 20 vacant stations by the end of this calendar year, which will form the basis for the annual recruiting class slated to start early January of 2024. And I just want to touch on a couple local items. So in Milwaukee, our wardens have had some really cool partnerships. One of those is with Milwaukee Police Department and the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office to tackle illegal ATV and off-highway motorcycle operation in the city. We see a lot of that down in like District 2 and in a lot of our county parks. These joint patrols have led to many citations, unregistered machines being towed, and increased safety in the neighborhoods and working with, local partners within the city, such as aldermen, to address a lot of their citizen concerns. So that's been a really productive partnership that has gone over really well and something that we're looking to continue. We address numerous complaints, especially in Milwaukee, regarding environment. That includes responses to spills in our local waterways, such as when Komatsu had the large oil spill into the Milwaukee River and Menominee River. Illegal dumping, I'm sure everyone's seen that when they drive through the city, seeing mattresses, piles of trash just dumped along the side. We've had a lot of really great cases where we've held people responsible for that illegal activity. Asbestos, making sure people are following regulations properly there, hazardous waste, stormwater issues. In a lot of those cases, we really continue to benefit from calls to our DNR hotline from concerned citizens. Unfortunately, we can't be everywhere at every time, so we really benefit from our citizens' eyes, ears, and being able to help us be effective as wardens and hold people accountable when they're violating. Wardens have been also actively patrolling Milwaukee County properties for illegal hunting. There have been multiple individuals that we've caught illegally shining and shooting deer and other wildlife. Again, that's an area where we really benefit from our citizens expressing what they're seeing on a daily basis to our wardens through that hotline. Again, one of the main things that we see people engage in, our fall fish run, our spring fish run. It's great when we see all the people come on out and do their best to try and catch, a 20-pound salmon or, a world-class steelhead. And we're seeing people coming from all over the country. I check licenses from people from New Mexico, Texas, people coming from Alaska where these fish are actually, native, just to use the resource here. And we take that seriously and spend a lot of time making sure that our anglers are doing that the right way and following in compliance with our rules and regulations. And then wardens also continue to provide a large security presence at large-scale events, such as on the Milwaukee River during the Milwaukee Bucks playoff games. We'll be out on our boats patrolling, ensuring safety there. At Lakeshore State Park when Summerfest is going on and during the other ethnic events. And just in general on Lake Michigan, we have the Air and Water Show. We had the Red Bull event last summer. We have some other events kind of upcoming. And we're going to do our best to serve our citizens during those large-scale events. And again, the main thing I just want to emphasize is, Milwaukee is a big county with a lot of people, and we really benefit from those people being willing to call us and let us know if a violation is occurring. So feel free to reach out to us anytime, whether it's a question, comment, concern, you just want to talk with me about fishing, that's great. But we really appreciate having that open dialogue with our citizens. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Before I begin my update, I'm just going to say I have a survey about this new format. Obviously this is a new format this year with this open house, and I would appreciate before you leave if you could fill this out, and you can hand it back to me, or you can hand it to another DNR employee, or you can even just leave it on the chair next to you and we'll come and grab it. But we really appreciate your feedback. These are for you to use as well, and we want to know what you feel about them. Otherwise, with that, I will finish this off with the updates. I'm Jessica Nackert. I'm the Milwaukee Wildlife Educator. So I'm a new position. I started at the end of November this past year. But for wildlife management updates, we'll start with the Milwaukee County Deer Advisory Council meeting. So this is also known as the CDAC. This meeting is going to occur on April 27th at 7 p.m. And this will be held at the DNR Milwaukee Service Center. This is on 1027 West St. Paul Avenue, so in downtown Milwaukee. If you've never been there, you should definitely check it out. But for anyone who doesn't know what a CDAC is, these councils provide input and recommendations to the department on deer management within the county. So every county has one throughout Wisconsin. During the meeting, I'll provide an overview of deer population metrics and other relevant data. But if you can't make it, you can also find deer metrics on the DNR website, so I highly recommend checking that out. There's also going to be a CDAC public input questionnaire that's available online from April 8th through the 16th. And this is to get public opinion on past season permit levels and other options and decisions that were made during the CDAC meeting. But there will be an opportunity for public input during the meeting as well, and there's going to be a Zoom option, so you can Zoom in if you like, or you can come in person, like I said before. And the information for this, if you've already forgotten, will be available on the CDAC page on the DNR website very soon, as well as the Zoom link will be located there. So again, that's April 27th, 7 p.m., DNR Milwaukee Service Center. I also have an update on our wolf management plan. So for anyone who doesn't know, in early 2021, the department began efforts to update the state wolf management plan. The resulting draft management plan was released in November 2022 for public review and comment, and an initial comment period closed on February 28th of this year. In total, we received several thousand comments from the public on the draft. DNR staff are currently compiling all the comments received, and they will consider revisions to the proposed wolf management plan based on this feedback. So thank you for anyone who did submit feedback, really do value it. And the comments will be made available on the DNR Wolf Management Plan page as soon as possible. The last time I talked with them, it looked like they were in their final format, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're up in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for any announcements about this. You can check out those comments. The department will continue to work diligently in preparing a final draft of the plan and exploring additional opportunities to engage with the public. So this isn't the last time that we're going to be asking for public input. This is a draft. That's the most important thing to consider. It's only still a draft. There's still a lot of changes to be made. So additional opportunities to engage with the public, the Wolf Management Plan Committee, and Wisconsin's tribes as the effort continues. And the current plan is that once these processes are complete, the Wolf Management Plan will be presented to the Natural Resources Board, which is expected to occur in late 2023. So that's our update on the Wolf Management Plan. Another update is that it's spring, and that means we're going to start to see a lot of young animals out on the landscape, especially here in Milwaukee. I bet some people have probably already encountered some young animals out there. But that also means the frequency of human-wildlife encounters is going to continue to increase as the weather gets warmer, especially with wildlife and their young. So I wouldn't be called the Milwaukee Wildlife Educator if I didn't educate you all a little bit today. So compared to humans, it's really important to understand that many animals may leave their young alone for a long period of time. If you're concerned about a young animal, or if you come across any sick or injured wildlife, and you're unsure if you need to take any action, the best thing you can do first before you do anything is to call the DNR Wildlife Hotline. So we have a hotline number that you can call and ask us any questions. This is the perfect reason why we have it for any of these types of questions. And we do also have an email, which is our DNR Wildlife Switchboard at wisconsin.gov. You can find the phone number and the email both on the DNR website. Make sure to also check out our Keep Wildlife Wild webpage that has a lot of information on what to do when you encounter young animals, as well as our Urban Wildlife page. There's a lot of great information about coexistence with urban wildlife, especially for an area like Milwaukee. The last update on that young animal report as well is that it's also very important that we keep our pets on a leash and appreciate our wildlife parents and their young from a safe distance. It's very natural for wildlife parents to be protective of their young, just like humans are protective of their children. So make sure you appreciate them from a safe distance, so it's good for us to coexist with them and our pets as well. And then the last thing is our education update. So as a Milwaukee Wildlife Educator, I've been working on some new education work within the area. Again, I began in the position in late November of last year, and I've already begun to connect with many local organizations and schools on wildlife education programming and resources. So one upcoming community art project that's currently in the works is with Milwaukee Public Schools. We have 3 elementary schools that will be getting pollinator gardens sometime this summer, and so we're working with them on wildlife education related to those, as well as a community art project that we're going to hopefully have stationed at Havenwood State Forest. So keep an eye out for some more details on that and when you'll be able to come and see that art and learn a little bit more about what the students are learning and why it's so important for them to have the opportunity to spread this message themselves. So keep an eye out for those details. Wildlife management is also very lucky to have such a great parks team, a great warden team, and a great fisheries team to work with in the area. And we feel very lucky to collaborate with them on many educational opportunities. So we will be in attendance at many of those educational events that were already mentioned. So at Havenwood State Forest, you can find us at MOHE, that Midwest Outdoor Heritage Education Expo, which will be on May 10th. And then we're also going to be at DNR night for the Milwaukee Admirals game, which is this Wednesday, which was coordinated by our wardens, which is pretty great. And we'll be sharing information about coexisting with wildlife in Milwaukee County. And then the final announcement I have is that we recently finished up our presence at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Sports Show, which was held here on the State Fair grounds. And planning will begin soon for the DNR's presence at the Wisconsin State Fair. So again, back on the State Fair grounds. I don't know how many people know this, but the DNR does have their own building each year at the fair. So stay tuned for some updates this summer from the DNR for more information on what we're going to bring to the State Fair this year. And it will run from August 3rd to the 13th for 2023. Otherwise, that is all the updates I have.
All right, thanks, everybody. Last, probably not least, I'd like to remind everybody that today was a pilot. Please, I would really like to get your feedback on how you thought this went versus the years in the past. It'll help kind of drive the decisions of what we're going to do in the future. This year was definitely a pilot, kind of an experiment to see if this is going to work for all the different counties in the state. And that leaves us with, what about the resolutions, right? So, as many of you have been here years and years in the past, remember that these were typically the spring hearings, where all the resolutions and the local resolutions would be discussed and voted on. That isn't the point of what we're doing here today. It's to meet your local officials, your delegates, and wildlife and law enforcement. So that being said, I just want to remind everybody that the spring, the resolutions will be done virtually, online, as they have been the last several years. The voting process will begin on the 10th at noon and end on the 13th at noon. And you can get more information by going to the DNR's website and searching for spring hearings. You'll find some information on that as well. Unfortunately, I cannot answer any questions about any of the local resolutions that might be presented, as those will not be available until the 10th. So I don't even know what the local resolutions are to be able to discuss. However, that being said, this is going to conclude the event tonight. And one second. And what I'd like to say is that we're here till 9 o'clock, and anybody that wants to come and talk, I'll certainly be here, to discuss anything you have. Real quick.
Being a town hall meeting, can I comment to the group? Are you open for comment?
It's not really a town hall group.
That's what I understood it to be, some town hall discussion?
So I'm happy to let you speak to the group if you'd like to. I don't really see a problem with it, but the intent of this was to be less of a town hall, as it was to be kind of a meet and greet, and to vote for your local delegates.
But you also asked about information, if I may.
Sure.
But at the other,
absolutely. Please.
At the other spring meetings, we were able to comment.
Okay.
My name is Bruce Look from Cudahy, Wisconsin. And a couple of things that I have is, was the board, WCCC, were you any part of this organization to change the format? Did you have any input on it?
So nobody that's in the delegates from Milwaukee County was on the leadership council that made the decision.
So, and then was it part of that, or was it all DNR?
I was not part of the conversation, so I'm not sure how that was. I believe that there were probably meeting minutes that you could look to see where the discussion came from, but okay. I don't have firsthand knowledge.
Because the other information that I received, it was from the DNR, that they made the decision to change these. And after me attending these for over 20 years, now you have a meeting on the first Monday of the month, and then you're going to have us do stuff on the second Monday. So now you're making it 2 meetings. Otherwise, this, what we've had this evening, maybe in a less format, was always on that second Monday, and it was just for a larger group. And I understand it's budget cuts, and that's throughout the world. It's an ugly inflation thing. But budget for the paperwork. Because now, my other point is, When we have these other meetings and you say on the internet, how do these sportsmen or anybody else get to comment on a question when I'm sitting on a computer? You lose that input. This here town hall, you weren't even gonna open this up for discussion now, and I thought it was a town hall meeting. I appreciate you giving me time to comment, but I disagree with the format. One night, because now you're asking these people to be involved in 2 nights, and I'm sorry, to answer the questions on them on a computer, and everybody can go do their voting on about 5 different computers, so I can vote how many different times, rather than being there one night and voicing my opinion, and if there's a comment on a fish question, some other sportsman that might know more about it than I do can comment, and that's the way it's been, and that's the way we learned. I like the ballot fact we've had the last few years, but you've had an open meeting tonight, we could have had that next Monday at some high school and had the similar with the information given. So yes, I'll fill out a form, and I do disagree with the 2 nights, and I disagree with the internet balloting. I prefer the open house ballot. And a thing for you to remember with your fishing being planted, April 15th is the open fishing for the spring clinics around the area.
April 15th is the date of the fishing clinic.
Correct, it's
Yeah.
open for everybody,
It's-
but that's an
it's the
important
kids' only
date
fishing season
for
right
all
now.
the kids to come out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
So-
I'll go ahead and make a point for that, because that's something that my club does, and I know Jerome's club
Yeah, and
does.
I would
too.
just like to clarify, I'm sorry if I didn't make this very clear when I talked about the urban fishing, but, I did say that the stocking started today. All of the ponds will be stocked for sure before April 15th, and we do that on purpose to make sure that they're stocked for the kids fishing clinic. So my apologies for not making that clear, but we are aware, in fact, I'm involved with the kids fishing clinics. I attend all the kids fishing clinic meetings, so we're very involved with that and think it's super important.
And I think the date would be good, because it is good for the kids. And our sportsman club is involved at McCarty Park. But thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate your comments. Yeah, and just to be clear, this is an open house. It wasn't intended to be a town hall format, but if anybody else would like to make a comment, that we have time here, so I really have no objections to it.
I'm Dan Bill from Oak Creek. I came specifically to state what he just did. I think this format is a bunch of crap to have basically two meetings when we could have had it all on one night. Voted on the delegates, vote on the questions, and be done with it. So,
I appreciate that, thank you.
My name is Brian Logan from the Milwaukee Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club. My question is, are we ever going to go back to the old format like we used to have?
Yeah, so all I can say about that is this year's a pilot, and we're gonna evaluate how people feel how this went at the end of the year. We're probably gonna discuss this at the WCC convention this spring. I know that there's a special committee that was set up this year with the WCC. And I am going to be a member of that committee to discuss kind of, this path going forward. I don't know if my committee is going to actually make the final decision or not. It's kind of TBD at this point, but, the committee that I'll be on will be, essentially evaluating the feedback and making recommendations. I don't know that this is going to be here like this next year. What I can say, from an official WCC standpoint is, we just have to wait and see how it goes with the feedback that we get this year. But as a personal citizen and a person here, I can just tell you that, everything that I've heard, I don't think that I'm sharing anything, is that, this hybrid format in some way, shape, or form is likely to stay. The participation rate of people being able to vote online was pretty high, and we've got a lot of really good feedback that they like that option as well. Now, I don't, as an official WCC person, I'm not gonna say that I have, one feeling or another, but I empathize with the people that spoke today and talked about being able to speak to the resolutions during the night. I thought it was educational. That's my personal opinion. Take the name tag off. But thanks for your comments, I appreciate it.
I'm just gonna echo what the other folks said. But I also wanted, when I first heard about this, I thought possibly that this would be the opportunity for us to discuss the questions in the questionnaire with the DNR folks here to clarify things, because that's what we used to do. And I thought, oh, well, that makes some sense. You meet, you can ask questions to the DNR to clarify questions, you can get input from your other citizens of your county, and then a week later, the voting might start. So I think that would be a better way of doing it. We only have one meeting for people who said 2 meetings. We only have one meeting. This is the only meeting. Now we just have to go home and try to plow through all those questions and try to figure out what they're saying. Some with bad wording, some that, you know, you just don't even know what they're trying to say. So, I don't mind having this meeting separate, but I think this should be the time when we discuss the questions, clarify them, get citizen input as well as clarification from the DNR. And then, so this would be the only meeting, and then we could vote next week or whenever they decide when we're gonna vote. I do appreciate having a lot more participation with people being able to vote online. A lot of people that were disabled or for other reasons couldn't be there at that very specific time, specific place. So that part I do appreciate. So I'm gonna grab my survey.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, just because we're handing out surveys today doesn't mean that that's the only opportunity that you're gonna have to give your feedback to the WCC. You know, feel free to reach out to me. My email address and my cell phone number are both listed on the delegate roster on the WCC page. I welcome you to reach out to myself or any of the other delegates that serve your county. We're advocates for you, whether generally I'm here to represent the citizens' opinions. So please share with me. You mean the dates of the convention? Yeah, I mean, we do have the convention up in Oshkosh this year, right?
That's open to the public.
It's open to the public, you know, that would be an opportunity for you to see maybe a little bit more of the inner workings of how we actually move the different resolutions forward. And as always, like, I think it's really important to understand, like, why the WCC was created. It was to get citizens' input, and it's really important to get your feedback. So do you have a date?
Yeah, I've got dates. So it starts on May 12th, and that's,
2 days. But there's.
oh, hang on. May, I believe that it's still May 12th, that the 11th would be the District Leadership Council up there. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I had the wrong calendar.
Right.
But then the 12th is the first day of the convention, where delegates actually go and talk about all of the hearing questions. And the 13th is that Saturday, that we talk about where those questions end up next. So that's, a lot of people kind of forget about the end of the convention, but that's actually extremely important where those questions end up. Because after the convention votes for them or not, they decide, you know, do we advance them or not advance them. The next day is they can be reassigned to whatever committee or to the floor or the District Leadership Council directly. And if you're an author, if you're interested in a question and you want to promote it, that committee is where you want to go. And, you know, make sure that you follow that question all the way through the process. Because in the last, 6 years that I've been doing this or so, I've been working with a lot of authors, and as the more that I hear the input from the authors and the more that they come to the committee, the more likely those questions are to pass through and get heard a lot clearer and louder. So we definitely want to work with you all, especially the authors of these things. And, you know, these are all public conversations, and for you to be able to have your chance to speak and be heard. So we want to make sure that you know about all of them, that you have the opportunity to come if you want to, and really give your input as much as possible. Thanks.
All right, well, we'll stick around. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Jason and Pete, can you, Pete, Papa George, can you come up for a second?
Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
would you be willing to share the video?
Sure,
with
I
the
think so.
WCC? 'Cause I think
So what
that
I-
Holly was kind of asking about that.